Today we're going to be talking about the possibility of it getting really cold in Washington State as a trough of low pressure potentially swoops off of British Columbia, ushering in some Arctic air back into Washington State. Places like Spokane, Washington could potentially have highs in the single digits with lows possibly getting below zero, and Seattle, Washington could have a couple days where it struggles to get above freezing, and yes, there is the possibility that it might snow. We're going to take a closer look and talk about some of the things that could potentially go wrong. Here we're looking at the overall pattern. This is looking about 15,000 feet up into the atmosphere. Not too much going on the next couple days. It is going to be cold east of the Cascades. It's going to be cool on the west side of the Cascades, but not cold. And looking off to our west, we can see there's a block of high pressure over the Gulf of Alaska. There's another one coming into the west of Alaska, and those two merge. And as they merge, they're helping usher the jet stream way up north into the Arctic and back down. And as we get towards the weekend, there's a lobe of Arctic air that comes down the Yukon into British Columbia and then opens up as a trough over the Pacific Ocean just off the coast of Washington. Basically comes off of British Columbia and right back into Washington, Northern Oregon. And that configuration right there is about perfect for getting Arctic air down into Western Washington and having snow. Here we're looking at the temperatures about 5,000 feet aloft. And you can see by the time we get to Friday, Saturday, the European model currently shows cool air coming down into British Columbia and then going right off the coast and back into Washington State, and then getting really cold over Washington State. So it's been interesting to look at model trends the last couple days. This is looking at the model run that ran early in the morning for the European on Saturday morning. And then this is looking at the model run that ran on Saturday evening. And this is looking at the model run that ran on Sunday morning. This is the model run that ran last night, and this is the model run that ran this morning. There you can see there's a clear westward trend. Initially the models had it way off to the east, still getting pretty cold in places like eastern Washington, but not quite as much in western Washington. But as the models have been progressing, it's been getting progressively colder, not just for places like Spokane, but also western Washington. And it all has to do with the position of this trough. Last night was even colder, and then this morning is even colder and snowier because this trough is going a little bit more off over the Pacific Ocean. One of my concerns is that this westward trend will continue. That's kind of what happened with the last cold snap that we had. Is for a little bit, it showed that favorable position of the trough, but then as a couple days went on, it trended this trough to not be over us anymore and trended it to be more off the coast, kind of spilling way too much of that cold air over the ocean and hanging it out over there too long, moderating it because the temperature of the ocean's a lot warmer than the cool Arctic air. And if that cool Arctic air spends too much time over the ocean, it can moderate it to where it just comes in as being cooler, not colder. But if we can just have it come out right over top of us like this, it will be a cold solution. So we'll have to see if the models continue to trend that. Looking at the GFS model, it was not biting this for a while. The European model bit it a little bit sooner. Just over the last couple of runs, even last night, it didn't show a very cold solution. But then this morning, it began to kind of come in line with the European. And now with the 12Z, this morning's run is even more in line with the European. So we'll have to see if this trend continues or if the models decide to take it away. Looking at the temperatures 5,000 feet aloft on the GFS model, it similarly shows very, very cold air coming down out of the Yukon and Alaska into British Columbia and then spilling some of it over the water and right back into Washington State, and then it hangs out with us for a while. Now taking a little bit closer look at the European model, it is showing a modified Arctic front coming down the Puget Sound on Saturday. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it is interesting to take a look at what it's currently showing. So right here, 4 p.m., you can see that there is Arctic air beginning to filter into Whatcom County and San Juan counties, and then as we skip forward to 7 p.m., this big modified Arctic front, Arctic air mass is crashing down the Puget Sound I-5 corridor, and by 10 p.m. we have convergence like right over King County, and that would be a snowy mess if it were to play out just like that. And as we go into the next couple days, it ends up getting nice and chilly. across the area. One product I like to look at to identify Arctic fronts is the Katura Snow Liquid Ratio product. This tells us what the snowfall ratio would be if certain temperatures were in place at the surface and aloft. We're looking at Sunday right now. Early in the day on Sunday, it has a Katura snowfall ratio of only about 3 to 4 inches in places like Seattle. That would be if 1 inch of precipitation fell, it would only fall as about 3 inches of snow. But as we go through the day on the GFS, it has the Arctic front come through a little bit later than the European does right now. You can look up there in Whatcom County, Arctic air begins to filter into the region up there. As we go a little bit later into the morning, that is starting to work its way down the Puget Sound. And boom, you see that crash right there? Seattle goes from having a snowfall ratio of about 4 inches to a couple hours later having a snowfall ratio of 15 inches of snow per 1 inch on the GFS. Just for funsies, we're going to take a look at what the European model showed for snow this weekend. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it is interesting to see what it is currently thinking. So as we go into Saturday and Sunday, this is what it is looking at for snow across the region. Pretty much all of Washington State, with maybe the exception of the coast, gets in on some snowfall. This is definitely going to change, but the European model is showing a bit of snow. Now looking over in eastern Siberia, we can see where some of our cold air currently is. It is negative 49 degrees below zero. And areas nearby there are also in the order of 40 degrees below zero. Look at this, 44 degrees below zero over there. You can see that that cold air right here in eastern Siberia goes down across the Arctic, across North Alaska, into the Yukon, down into British Columbia, and straight into Washington State. So this would be cold air that hasn't wasted any time over any warm waters. And it could be interesting depending on how it goes. So again, there is a bit of uncertainty for what exactly is going to happen, but if you like snow and you like cold, it's encouraging that the European model is the one that is showing a lot of cold as well. Looking at Seattle, it currently shows on its ensemble data, Seattle having 4 straight days with temperatures below freezing. Up in Everett, it shows the same with it being even a little bit colder. Up in Bellingham, same thing. And everything beyond this range right here, we're gonna have to see if it gets colder or warmer in the future. But again, how cold it gets has everything to do with how this trough ejects off of British Columbia. If it ejects off of Canada too far west and spends too much time over water, that'll warm up the air too much, and we'll just be cooler with maybe some marginal snow events. But if it starts trending with this trough coming off right over top of us like this, then we can increase confidence that it's probably going to be pretty dang cold also on the west side of the Cascades. Alright guys, I will be keeping my eye on this, and I'm sure every other weather nerd will be in Washington State as well. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. I'll talk to you later.